discernment is defined in Romans 12:2, where it says, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will." So this is a gift given by the Holy Spirit, basically to be able to test what's of God and what's of this world. The reason I'm bringing this up is because when you have this gift, as you grow in the Spirit and stuff, it becomes more clear. Things get pointed out more and more as you watch certain movies, certain media, or you hear people say stuff, whatever. It just kind of hits you like that doesn't sound right. It's like a switch is hit, and you're all of a sudden able to just sense things. Which it sounds weird, but those of you that are born again that do have the Spirit will understand what I mean by that, and it does grow the more you feed it. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is we watched a little bit ago. My wife and I watched the Pinocchio remake. Honestly, for something that was something that was supposed to be a kids movie, this movie was. This movie was out there. Loki is interfering here, but I feel kind of needed to get on and talk about this because I want to bring it to people's attention to be careful what your kids are watching, and I'll get into some points here on about this movie. I mean, it's weird because even when something seems weird, it seems like it's more of this world than it is of God. There's still things that can point to the gospel, because I mean it's ultimately it's in our hearts, and we're always longing for that. We're always longing to be with God, whether we realize that or not. And this movie had a lot of interesting points that actually kind of point to the gospel without actually doing that. First of all, pretty early on in the movie, Jiminy Cricket, you should all know who he is. He is actually described as a still small voice, and he is kind of tasked with being a Pinocchio's conscience, which still small voice. Well, know that phrase from the Old Testament. That's the Holy Spirit. But on kind of a darker side, there are some very dark themes for a kids movie. Like there's one point, it's like halfway through or so. Spoilers ahead, by the way, in case you haven't seen it. If you don't know the story, the mild spoilers. I'm not gonna should be anything too drastic, but just thought I would throw that in there before you get too far in this. Obviously, if you watch click it on the video, you kind of expected that. But about halfway through, Pinocchio ends up following somebody instead of doing what going where he's supposed to go and doing what his dad Geppetto told him to do. He ends up basically running away with one of his friends, and they're trying to get to what is called Pleasure Island. They're basically abducted. They don't use that word, but basically they end up getting in like a carriage with a bunch of adults, and they're heading to what's called Pleasure Island, which honestly, that there were some serious like child trafficking vibes there. Might sound a little bit extreme, but if you watch that and tell me that I'm wrong, watch at least just that scene and tell me that I'm wrong, that's not the vibe you're getting from that too. It's kind of creepy actually. They end up basically, adults as adults ask them to follow them basically to Pleasure Island, which has but anyway, once they actually get to the island, kids basically are the more that the kids give in to temptations and ignore their conscience that was kind of brought up earlier with Jiminy Cricket and stuff. That's kind of the whole point, is following your conscience, doing what's right. That's what makes Pinocchio, what makes Pinocchio wants to be a real boy, and the more that he does what's right, the closer he gets to that, basically. But once the kids are out, the kids are trying to do that on the island as well. Basically, the more they give into temptations and they ignore their conscience, they're taken away by these like creepy demon-looking creatures, taken to what's called the salt mine. Jiminy at one point, once he ends up tracking, tracking Pinocchio back down after he loses him for a little bit, which brings, kind of points out, the human in all of us would get distracted. But basically, he jokes around and says he felt like he went to HE double hockey sticks, and that's actually what he said. That's a direct quote. He said HE double hockey sticks. It's not actually too far off. Giving in to temptation, not following your conscience, not following that still small voice, and having it get dark. That was kind of the general theme of the whole movie there. But anyway, Geppetto and Pinocchio basically, towards the end of the movie, they're also, they're basically eaten by a giant whale, which, obviously giving off Jonah vibes with that one. And then, at the very end of the movie, basically, Geppetto tells Pinocchio that he's loved in every way, and basically he's told that his past, doesn't matter. He loves him. He loves him anyway. He's glad he came back, which is basically the prodigal son story. So it's, as much as, and I'm speaking of the remake. I don't remember a lot of the original one. Assuming it's pretty similar themes and everything, but it's interesting. I know that Disney has gotten a bad rap over the years, and I'm not going to speak on a lot of the woke stuff, so to speak, that Disney has done. That's up to you to reach and decide that yourself. But despite all that, and I kind of see to a point with some of the stuff that was in this movie, how they're definitely more. This movie, at least, definitely is more of this world than it is of God, but the gospel is still kind of poking through. Let me know. Let me know if there's anything that I mentioned here that you hadn't thought of with this, or if there's anything you think that I'm wrong about. Mention it. Mention it to me. I'm all for learning. We should be. We should be. Learning. We should be learning. Learning from each other, right? So, get. Any thoughts you have, let me know if you think that I'm wrong about anything, or if there's anything that I missed that you think is along these same lines that is definitely, of the world, or that points towards the gospel, points to Jesus. Let me know about that. But yeah, hopefully you learned something here. Sorry, it's been a while since you guys have actually seen a video. There's been a lot happening here. Pray for my wife and I as we make some pretty drastic changes in our lives here, and I'm not in the office because the office is officially an extra bedroom now, since I don't use that. And I'll get into that a little bit more on my other channel. I'm going to put a video up over there. And as far as why you'll be more into why you haven't seen a video for a little bit over there as well. But there's some heart. There are some heart changes that are happening, and there's some kind of health, some mild health stuff that we're working towards. We got some diet changes we're working on and stuff. So pray about us for that. Hopefully you guys are all doing well, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Go out, be Christ's light in the darkness of the broken world, and until next time, thank you for watching Coffee, Music, and Jesus.